Olivia, thank you for being here.
Oh my gosh, thank you for having me. I'm so
And
excited.
as I'm saying your name, Olivia's my favorite name because my baby's name is Olivia.
That was my first clue that we were gonna hit it off really well.
Yeah, yes, exactly. I'm like, this is such a beautiful name. It's classic. Do you go by Liv or Livy?
Usually Liv. Every now and
Liv.
then Livy, but for most of my life it's been Liv. And then whenever I meet someone, it's Olivia for like 6 weeks. And then
Okay.
then it's Liv.
I feel like my daughter is Liv.
Yeah.
She's just straight up Liv. We
Oh.
don't ever call her Olivia. It's like Liv or Livy
Hmm.
because Olivia is a common name, but
It
for good
is
reason. Like
now.
it's a beautiful name. Did you know it's the number one girl name right
It's
now?
like Olivia and Liam are like taking over
Liam, yes.
for boy and girl names.
Yes.
When I was a little Olivia, there were no other Olivias. Like there was
No.
one other Olivia in my class in college, but like growing up, I was the only Olivia, and now it's like
Now it's
it's
everywhere.
everywhere. I love it.
How old are you? Are you
I'm 30.
okay? Okay, I'm 32. So we're like same generation.
Hmm.
Yeah, I feel like I didn't know any Olivias, but it's
Yeah.
gorgeous, timeless name. It's having a moment, which I'm like annoyed about because I named her and then we went and looked at the list and we were like, no, but we didn't want to change it. We're like, it's fine. She'll be Liv or Livy and she'll be
Totally.
different. And
What's her
I'm
middle name?
Marie.
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 Oh,
That's my middle name, my mom's middle name. What's yours?
Kathleen. Marie
Kathleen.
is my sister's middle name, though.
That's a good one.
It is.
Olivia Kathleen.
Olivia Kathleen
And then what's your maiden name?
Hauser.
That's a long name.
Yes, Olivia Kathleen Hauser.
Olivia Kathleen Hauser. Wow, I
That
feel like I
wasn't
just say that.
exactly something I was like sad to be. I don't know. I didn't dislike my last name, but I love my last name now.
I love you.
I
You
feel
have
like
a
it
really,
flows. There's a lot of
yes.
vowels, but it's great.
It's a really good last name. Yeah. My maiden name is O'Neill, so it was Shannon
Okay.
O'Neill. So it's like a lot of like vowels as well.
Hmm.
Okay. Anyways, you are here because I want to talk to you about wellness. You have had a journey, and I want to get into that a little deeper. So you started, you were a college athlete,
Hmm.
right? Where did you go to school?
University of San Diego.
Oh,
I was a
nice.
torero.
Oh, do you miss San Diego?
Sometimes, yes. I feel like there's a lot about San Diego and Austin that is similar vibe wise.
Yeah,
Like
I could
people
see that.
are friendly. It's a very like wellness focused community. Lots of sunshine. So
Yes.
a lot of the things that I loved about San Diego, I feel like I've found here. And then the things that I maybe like didn't love as much. I don't know. I'm such an Austin convert. I love it
Are
here.
you really?
Yeah.
How long
But
have you
yeah,
been here?
2.5 years.
2.5 years.
Hmm.
What made you move from San Diego? Or were you in San Diego before Austin?
We did a little stint back in Oregon for a year and a half,
Okay.
but Kyle and I met in San Diego. We lived there for like a year and a half while we were dating and then moved, yeah, to Oregon. But Austin was our final destination because we had visited here probably 3 times together
Yeah.
and just loved it. We were like, this is our favorite city. And it always came
Yes.
up, on date night at dinner, like, oh, if we were going to move anywhere, where would we move? And always we came back to Austin.
Yeah.
So we finally just took the plunge in 2022 and moved.
Nice.
Hmm.
We're the same. We moved last year and it's just like been the best. I feel like it's such a good, it has a lot of really good things.
Hmm.
And it doesn't have like a lot of the really bad things that some of the bigger cities have.
Right.
Like I feel like it's really a great place to raise a family. Like it's really safe and like everyone here is so friendly and nice. Like I have
So
never
nice.
made friends so easily than in Austin.
Totally. I
It
could not agree more.
yes,
I felt
good.
like community was, that was our biggest prayer, our biggest desire when we moved here is like, because we didn't know anyone.
Yeah,
Like, how
same.
do we meet people? How do we find community? Um, and it has been alarmingly easy.
Wait, so how are you meeting people? Because I get this question all the time. People are like, "How do you meet friends? Like in a new city, help me." But how have you met people?
So we were going to Red Rocks Church and we joined their volleyball league over the summer. And it was so much fun. And
Sand volleyball?
sand volleyball.
Oh,
And we met like a ton of people through the volleyball league. And it's pretty much been that became like our core group of friends. Yeah.
fun.
So a lot of a lot of volleyballers and then a lot of people obviously in our industry. Like if
Yeah.
you're creating content,
Yeah.
there's so many content creators here.
Yes,
So
so
that's been
many.
really nice.
Well, that's how we connected is just
Totally.
like through Instagram and
Hmm.
we've been meaning to go on a walk and I'm like,
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
sorry. You were out of town and then I was out of town and then combine that with just like Austin heat and it's just, I'm
And like
like,
everyone evacuating over the summer.
yeah.
I know.
Have you noticed that this city's like a ghost town? Like everyone
I
leaves.
kind of like it
I
because
know.
it's so easy to get a reservation. You can like walk into any restaurant,
Yes.
nothing is booked, and it's like the diehards are here over the summer. Like you're committed.
Exactly. Exactly. You're committed. And you just get used to being sweaty and it's
Yes.
like it's fine. We played tennis last night in the 95-degree heat,
Oh,
sun beaming down. And it was fine. Like you just like you're like, I'm gonna be hot and sweaty and miserable and I'm just gonna accept it.
it's a very even playing field. Like we
Yes.
went to a wedding in June and it was a Texas summer day, like very, very hot. And it was just, everyone's going to be sweaty. It wasn't just the sweaty people who were
No.
sweaty. It was literally
Yes,
everyone who was going to be sweaty.
everyone.
So nice, even playing field, good conversation starter.
Exactly. And we were talking about that, Kenneth and I were like, we feel like in Austin it's socially acceptable to kind of like look a little rough.
Yes,
Like when you're out on a walk
a tad
or
disheveled.
yeah,
Yes.
like in LA, you go on a walk and everyone is like gorgeous and like looks wearing like a cute
Hmm.
matching set and I love a cute matching set, but like they look head to toe amazing and here it's like anything goes. Like if you need
Totally.
to take your shirt off, it's fine. If you have like sweat marks all over your body, it's fine. No one cares. Like
It's definitely saying something about me that I love the style and like that about Austin, that
yes.
you're never going to be the most dressed up or the least dressed up. Like you can't really be
Yes.
underdressed anywhere in Austin because it's so chill. And
Yes.
yeah, like a touch of disheveled is like totally
Is
welcome.
like totally fine. No one
It's totally
judges you,
fine.
no one cares.
No.
Whereas in LA, maybe even San Diego, you're like,
Yeah, there's
no,
definitely more pressure to keep up, maybe looking your
image.
best. Yeah, keep up
Yeah,
an image.
there is. There is. So back to what I was originally trying to ask you. I feel like this
There's
conversation
going to
is
be a
gonna
lot of this.
exactly, which is this is like our first time chatting. So I'm like, this is gonna be kind of fun for me because I've never done this style of podcast before, just to like chat and like get to know somebody on the mics. So this is gonna
I
be
love
really
it.
fun. But so you were a college athlete.
Hmm.
You were a runner,
Hmm.
okay, at San Diego.
Hmm.
And how did being an athlete shape your view of like fitness and your body image? How did that how did that shape you to like where you are now?
Thankfully, I was always like very into exercise and into like, I don't know, I've always loved that like movement as a form of mental health and being energized. So I've always really looked at exercise in a really positive way. I think a lot of people can leave, especially collegiate running, because it's so, I don't know, eating disorders are really rampant in that space. They can leave with a little bit of like an addictive mindset around exercise
Yeah.
or kind of some like negative self speak around exercise.
Yeah.
Thankfully, that wasn't the case for me. I just always like
Good.
loved working out. I will say I got so burnt out with running specifically. By the end of my 4-year career, so I ran track and cross country.
Wow.
And it was like, so you're competing for 2 seasons and you're running like 55, 60 miles a week. There are no off days. We
Wow.
had practice Saturday, Sunday at like 6 a.m. Like it was just a very different college experience.
Yeah.
So after my collegiate running experience, I was like, I'm going to do my one token marathon and then I'm done.
Yeah.
Like I'm quitting running. And that's exactly what happened. I got so burnt out with running, but exercise has always just taken on new forms in my life, whatever like I'm leaning to at that moment. And after running, it was like Pilates, low impact, that type of stuff.
Yeah. What made you burn out? Was it like physical burnout? Like
Mm,
were you getting injured or was it just like I'm over this mentally, emotionally?
it was both. So I got terrible stress fractures like all through college. It would be 3 months on, and then I would get a stress fracture. And running, the reason I quit, it was because it was keeping me from doing other like types of movement. Like I
Mm.
couldn't,
Hmm.
when I was in a boot every few months for having a stress fracture, I couldn't go on walks and I couldn't play tennis and I couldn't do all these other fun things that were active. So the whole like not wanting to be a runner anymore, I was like, I want to be able to be healthy in my body
Hmm.
and not be dealing with these injuries.
Hmm.
And then I think also the pressure to run every single day for 4 years, even when you don't really want to.
Yeah.
Like
Yes.
you have to train. That burnt me out so much too. And I remember saying to my teammates, I aspire to be like a recreational runner. that doesn't look at time, doesn't have a pace. Like I'm just out here for the mental health benefits, like for the physical benefits, just because I love running. And we didn't have any recreational runs.
Right, of course not, because everything's about performance.
Totally.
So with all of your injuries, do you think that was related to overuse? Do you think it was related to nutrition or like strength, not strength training, since it sounds like when you were training, you had to be running because you were doing so much of it. So maybe you didn't have time for like the strength training and other kinds of things. So what do you think, looking back now, the stress fractures were from?
I think it was a mixture of overuse and then not strengthening the right muscles, kind of like what you're alluding to. I met with a physical therapist probably 2 months ago here in Austin, and we were talking about, you know, my running career, and I was like, oh, I'm probably just never going to run again. I don't know. It doesn't really seem like it's on my bingo card. Because of the stress fractures. And he was like, well, he was telling me all the reasons why I was getting these stress fractures, and I was thinking, would have been nice to know.
Yeah, seriously.
Like 6 years ago.
Oh,
Wait, longer than 6 years ago.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So it was like, combination of overuse, which is so common.
So common.
I think that there's a mindset, and you were running because it was basically your job in college.
Totally.
Was to run. And so you didn't necessarily have like a choice but to maybe overuse your body. But a lot of, you know, recreational runners at this point, or fitness enthusiasts in general, are getting injured all the time because they're doing too much and they're overdoing it and they're not striking that balance. So what does your routine look like now? Are you, I know you've added back running back in.
Yeah.
Fun. Okay. So what's your routine look like now?
I'm a dabbler.
Love it.
I think after doing, you know, the same workout every day for years and years and competing, I just want to move my body. I just want to like experiment with different workouts. I love group fitness. So I do 2 days a week. I know, right? Group fit, like,
I know.
It's such good energy.
And probably as a runner, you never got to take group fitness classes.
Exactly.
It probably feels like such a treat.
I know. It's like a little luxury.
Yeah.
I do Legree, which some people think of as Pilates, but then the Pilates people are like, it's not Pilates.
Oh, I know. Oh my
so
gosh.
I don't want to equate it with Pilates.
Yeah.
But a lot of people can think of it that way. So I do Legree twice a week. I run. We're going to be very loose with our running term because it's like I still walk half of it.
Love.
I walk half my runs.
Love it. But your goal is to have fun doing it and not like pressure to perform.
Exactly. Recreational running.
And it's hot. So
oh my gosh. Why did I pick up running in July? Like the literal worst time.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know what I was thinking. But like some of our first runs were in 100-degree weather and I'm like, maybe
that's
not
how you know you really want to have it back in your life.
So I'll run like 2 times a week. And then I, at the start of this last year, so in 2020, like January 24, I decided I was going to get back into like strength training and lifting.
I love to hear that.
I know. You actually should mention this. When I listened to your podcast with the Skinny Confidential a year ago-ish.
Yeah.
That was my introduction to you. And that podcast and the way that you spoke about fitness and strength training was such a big catalyst for me getting back in the gym.
Gosh.
I know we've never talked about this.
No,
it feels appropriate right now to bring it up.
So that makes me so happy. I think that podcast was how a lot of people got introduced into our world. I mean, Lauren and Michael, they are, first off, we should talk about this because they live in Austin. They're awesome.
I'm like, how have I not just run into them at some point? I want to meet them. They seem amazing.
I don't know. They are awesome. They are the type of people that are the exact same off camera and off the mics as they are on. Like I could not tell when the mics were on or off. It was like such a good experience. And I left that interview being so inspired by them as like business people because they came to that interview and they were so present. They didn't check their phone one single time, even though they have a million bajillion things going on. They have like all these businesses and they have like, you know, this major podcast and they've got kids and whatever. No, the time that I was there, they were like fully present with us. And it was just so inspiring to me because I was like, how do you guys do this? And they pointed to their assistant. They were like, she helps us a lot. I'm like, okay, I need
afloat.
I need one of those in my life. But it was such a fun, and I'm going on next week. again.
Gosh, good
Yeah,
for you.
I'm
Wait,
so
I'm excited to
excited.
hear it.
I'm so excited.
I love that it's just coming full circle.
I know.
Like definitely my introduction to you and Evlo and getting back into strength training. So
Yes.
anyway, you inspired me.
Oh,
The way that you spoke about fitness and strength training, and specifically for women, it was just really inspiring to me. It made
good.
it so like, oh, this is immediately actionable. It's not
Yes.
scary. It's not something that you have to be overwhelmed by.
No.
So yeah, it was
Well,
encouraging.
why is there there's so many fitness apps out there and to encourage women to move, and a lot of them are like Pilates or cardio
Mm-hmm.
or which is great, but I feel like there's not really very many like progressive overload, like let's use the science, let's apply the science
Mm-hmm.
for women. And so women just feel like, oh, this maybe isn't for me, or like I don't have a
Yeah.
tool to be able to use. But I mean, I'm so glad that you felt like it wasn't intimidating and you could do it in a way that feels like, okay, I can also integrate these other things that I enjoy doing, like Pilates and running and
Mm-hmm.
things like that. So that's awesome. Um, how have you seen your body change since you've added that?
Oh, this is a good question.
Doesn't need to be physically. It can be
Yeah.
like in any way.
Um, I'm definitely obviously much stronger because I
Yes.
wasn't doing like
Yes.
a strength program before. I think it can be difficult to track your improvement in a workout like Pilates
Yes.
because you are consistently doing the same things. There's not like a progressive overload. So it was harder to know, am I getting a lot better at this or can I just hold this plank like for
Right.
6 minutes now?
Right. Right.
So definitely like seeing improvements in my strength that I can actually measure, which as someone who used to be a competitive athlete, I think that like sets some things off in my brain.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like that trackability.
You need to know that you're like making progress.
Exactly.
And yeah, like
Yeah,
when you're running, you're probably getting faster times. And it's like you can visually see,
totally.
objectively see, oh, I'm getting better at this.
Totally.
Yeah.
I also think just my confidence. So this wouldn't be, specifically about my body, but
No.
anytime you're doing something new and pushing yourself in a new arena, you're building confidence. And that has been really fun to see because the gym kind of was intimidating to me
Yes.
and strength training was intimidating. So building that confidence that like it's not scary and you can do you can take on new challenges at any time.
Yeah.
I really liked that. Oh, another thing I like about strength training, now that I'm just
Yeah. Keep going.
I'm
Keep
getting it all
rolling.
out. You have to be so present.
Yes.
So
It's like meditation.
yes, I like that
Yes.
about it. I'm not like checking my phone and my brain can't really wander because I don't want to mess up the form.
Yes.
So I'm really, really present when I'm like lifting.
I find that too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, most of my workouts are when I'm teaching, but I'll
Oh,
take
yeah.
the Evlo classes too, like from the other teachers, from Jill and Peyton. And I find that I'm not thinking about anything
Mm-mm.
else because number one, you're like, oh my gosh, get through this. Like, and then number two, yeah, you're like, I need to make sure I'm contracting everything properly. So it
Mm-hmm.
is like meditation. It feels like I'm reading this book called Rewire. This neuroscientist who's coming on the podcast. It's so good.
Ooh.
And she's talking about right now in the chapter I'm reading how if you want like a break, a mental break, a brain break, you actually need to like stop putting so much stimulus into your brain. And a lot of people will pick up their phones and like scroll on social media and call that a break.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not a break since you're putting like so much content and visuals and audio into your mind. And so you end up leaving that like more drained. But with things like exercise and meditation, it actually is a break. You're getting less like visual stimulus through your mind or through
Mm-hmm.
your eyes and less audio stimulus through your ears. And so it's actually a refreshing break for your brain, which I think is just like so fascinating. So I
Totally.
absolutely relate to that. It's like a form of meditation, I
Mm-hmm.
think. And I don't think it gets enough credit for being a form of meditation.
No, I think a lot of people look at exercise, probably not your community, but it can be looked at as like a burden and not
Yes.
like this luxury, this thing that we get to do. And one of the things that a way that we have incorporated movement in a very meditative way that is like something we look forward to every day is our evening walk. Like Kyle and I do an evening
Oh,
walk every
I
day.
used to do those with my husband. We can't with a baby anymore, but I miss it
No,
so much. It's so, it's
it's
everything.
like so meditative. I'm like,
Yes.
oh my gosh, we're out in nature too,
Yes. Getting in
walking like
nature.
around the lake. It's a beautiful part of the day. I look
Oh my
forward to it.
gosh. Absolutely. Is your husband does he also exercise, or do you guys have like separate, because I know you do a lot together with work.
Mhm.
So does he have like a separate routine that he does on his own?
He does. So
Okay.
he loves to be in the gym.
Okay.
So he does it like his lifting every day. I'm like, I don't even know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Looks hard.
It looks hard. Yeah.
Seems like it's definitely working for you.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, keep doing that.
Yeah, keep doing that. Like, bravo, baby.
that.
So he does that, and then he always like encourages my little whims. So getting back into running, he has been doing that with me too.
Fun.
I know. I can't say I totally anticipated that. He was also a collegiate track athlete.
Oh.
But like never had a big running career.
Mm-hmm.
So like he was doing shorter. He wasn't doing
He's
like
a sprinter.
Yeah, he was like
Okay.
sprinting and not doing 5Ks.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Which is a different skill. I don't know a ton
Totally.
about running, but it
Yeah,
seems to be a
definitely.
totally different skill.
Yeah, the distance versus the sprint runners, typically not a lot of overlap.
Yeah,
So,
your distance, not sprint.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I thought that the getting back into running was just going to be a me thing, but he has totally
You're
been
doing
on
it
board.
together.
I know.
That's
so cute.
That's so cute. That's so cute. So that's exercise. What about nutrition? Because I know you are, what is it? Dairy-free, sugar-free,
And
gluten-free?
gluten-free.
Okay, what made you do that?
My health journey all started with my acne-prone skin. I had really acne-prone skin from a very young age, and I started going on all the topical ointments and creams, and even ended up doing oral antibiotics starting from 10 years old, which like it
10.
seems so crazy. That's so
10?
little. I
Aw.
know. So acne showed up for me at a really young age,
Mhm.
and I'm one of 4 kids, and it wasn't like that wasn't happening for them. That wasn't their journey.
Huh.
So I kind of had to learn what worked for my body and what didn't. And from a young age, there was this knowledge that maybe you're not going to be able to eat all of the foods that other people eat and have the same result. So I got kind of into health rather young. And then once you go, in high school and college, I'm not like as I wasn't as health driven at that point. It was still like in the back of my mind that, these foods they can make me feel good or bad. Food can be medicine, or it can be doing harm to my body. So it was really like after college that I decided I don't want to be on these medications anymore. Like, this is really disempowering to every time I go off of one, or it doesn't end up being like as effective anymore, I need to go on a higher dose. It was really like a burden. I did not enjoy that. I was like, there's got to be a better way. So after college, I really transformed my diet. And that was when my skin for the first time was actually clearing up, and I didn't need medication anymore. And that was so empowering.
Yes.
I was like, oh my gosh, I can actually change the expression of this acne. Like, I don't have to just wait for it to show up and then try to fix it with a cream, even though that's not really fixing it at all.
Right. So how strict are you with the dairy-free, sugar-free gluten? Like, are you like, I never eat it? Or is it something that you sometimes will do like a treat here and there?
I am, again, a dabbler.
Yes.
I would say I'm probably 90-10.
Okay.
Dairy is the one that I can't really be too loose with because it shows up for me like immediately on my skin. So that one's tough, especially when you're traveling. And like, we went to Italy earlier this year, and I couldn't really take part in the dairy forward activities, but that was fine.
Well, they say that, could you eat the gluten? Because they say that it's better quality over there.
I know. I was definitely anticipating that, like, oh, I'm going to be fine with gluten because everyone says it's like so much easier in Europe. That wasn't necessarily the experience for me. Maybe it was just like specifically what we were eating, but I kind of felt the same as I would here.
Yeah.
Not a hot take.
No, it's not a hot take. It's important to say, yeah, because everybody has, and everybody's so bio-individual. So
Totally.
It makes sense that some people might be fine and some people might not. So with your food mentality, at this point, you've been doing it for, years, the sugar-free, dairy-free, gluten-free.
Yeah.
Do you feel any sort of like deprivation, or do you feel like you have to like really work with your mindset around food, or do you feel pretty comfortable around food? Because I know a lot of people struggle with the mindset around food. So speak to that.
Totally. At this point, no. I feel like in the past I have had, I think, issues with a restrictive or disordered mindset around food, but
Mm-hmm.
that was specifically certain diets, not necessarily like the food that I was, I don't know, the gluten-free, dairy-free, refined sugar-free
Yeah.
lifestyle I wanted to pursue. It was doing the keto diet and doing intermittent fasting is when I started to have like some disordered thinking, some like fear foods, fear of carbs during the keto phase. Um, but with the way that I eat now, I feel no restriction. Like I love the food that I enjoy. And yeah, it just doesn't feel like I'm missing out on
Good,
anything.
good.
Yeah.
And you probably, I know like with keto and intermittent fasting, there's a there can be a big hunger component. So like
Mm,
you're hungry.
hmm.
Um, so you probably don't feel that. So maybe that makes it easier to
Totally.
not be like starving all the time. Like
Yes. Like with intermittent fasting being so religious about, I'm not, sorry, I keep bumping this.
it's like it's like really in your grill. It's
I know, like,
fine.
not used to the professional
Yeah.
mic. Um, I remember being just like so religious about not being a breakfast eater. Like, oh no,
Mm,
I don't eat breakfast. And then 1 week of the month, like my luteal phase, I would be so ravenous around breakfast time. And so I
mm,
started introducing breakfast just for that week of the month. And then I started thinking, like, why am I not listening to these cues more often? Why only when it's like this 1 week where I will be having breakfast or else?
yes.
Um, so I started examining a lot of those beliefs around food, a lot of like those fears and I don't know, things that I had allowed into my mindset that really were reinforced by social media.
Hmm.
Like the keto craze and the intermittent fasting craze was so strong.
Hmm.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
I feel like we've all done it.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm like, was anyone unaffected by that?
Mm-mm.
Especially like, I don't know, as a woman, I think that we want to look good, we want to feel good.
Yeah.
And it was really being preached that like, these are the two things, like the two tools in the toolbox that are going to get you there.
Yeah.
And for a while, I really liked that way of eating. I think
Hmm.
my body was definitely running on a little cortisol, and
Yeah.
cortisol can feel really good. Like you can feel really energized and um, excited for the day, but it's
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, stress like pulsing through my body
Yeah.
because I
Yeah.
haven't eaten.
Right. Did you notice that that affected you in other ways, like systemically, like or chronically?
I think I was losing a lot of hair. I think my hair got a
Oh.
lot thinner when I wasn't eating carbs and I wasn't creating safety in my body.
Hmm.
So that was one way that I think it affected me. And then just like gut and microbiome
Hmm.
funkiness started to
Yeah.
happen after about, I want to say like 2 years in.
Yeah.
And the whole reason that I got into it was I was, I had just started dating Kyle and he was like on a health kick. He was listening to The Drive by Peter Attia all
Yeah.
the time. I like love Peter
Yes.
Attia.
Yes.
Um, he's listening to that and just like really informed by a lot of like men in the wellness space that were saying keto, intermittent fasting, like you have to do this.
Yes.
So he was doing it, and I'm like, I want to do everything that you're doing, so
Oh,
we're gonna
cute.
do it.
Cute. Cute.
And it worked differently for him. I think that
Yeah.
he probably could have kept with it and lived a very abundant life. For me, I was like, I am not a very kind person sometimes when
Yeah, if you're hangry
when
and
I'm
you're
angry.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, and they say that women are affected very differently from
Hmm.
by intermittent fasting
The
than
hormone
yeah.
fluctuations. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes total sense. So you seem like you're maybe someone that's affected by food pretty,
Hmm.
which is almost like I don't want to say that that's a good thing. But it you have this immediate feedback when
Hmm.
you eat something, either your skin or it sounds like your hair. So that is probably a lot of motivation for you
Totally.
to keep eating in this clean way. But what other benefits have you seen beyond like skin and hair?
Oh, the mental clarity, um, the gut health. And I'll go back to this, like the bio individuality of it. Because my three siblings were so affected differently, I realized, like, again, from a young age, like, okay, food does really affect me. So is this either going to be like this burden I have to bear for my whole life? Am I gonna view it as a negative thing? Or is this a positive that I do get that immediate feedback?
Yeah.
And I've started to be thankful for the reality that food does affect me immediately.
Yeah.
It's not like all right, these underlying issues are gonna sit there for years without being brought to awareness. For me, it's like it shows up on my face or in my hair in like a really short amount of time. So reevaluating the mindset around that has been really helpful in the last, I would say, 5 years of just being grateful that I am someone who lives in a body that happens to be like very affected by what I eat.
Yes. But that takes conscious effort to be like, okay, I'm going to reframe this in my
Mm-hmm.
brain. And you are someone that, just from like meeting you today and listening to you on other podcasts and following you on social media, you really seem like you're someone that's emotionally grounded and confident and emotionally mature.
Oh, thank you.
And that statement that you just said kind of highlighted that even more. Have you always been like that, or is it something that you have to work on?
Ooh, I think that I have definitely become a lot more emotionally mature, um, especially even in the last like couple years. And this is not something I usually talk about on Instagram, or I guess I've possibly even never brought it up, but
Yeah.
my parents separated 3 years ago and then got divorced 2 years ago, in August. And there was a lot of like emotional maturing that had to happen throughout, post divorce and post separation. And I think a lot of things, when there's that kind of cataclysmic shift in your life, a lot of things they like bubble up to the
Oh
surface.
my gosh, yes.
So any
Yes.
sort of like trauma or anything that hasn't really been dug up, it kind of got dug up in the last couple of years.
Wow.
So I should have probably like gone to therapy and really gotten some tools to handle the emotions that were coming up.
Mhm.
But I will say I have really, really good friends who are therapy informed,
Good.
who have been
Yes.
like such a good voice of reason, have been speaking and praying into my life, and just have been such a light for me and such a
Ugh,
safe space for the last like 3 years. And then Kyle, my husband, is so emotionally mature and
yeah.
so like attuned to my emotions. And that's something that it was like a first dating a man that was so emotionally attuned. And I
Yes.
remember talking to his mom about it. I was like, has he always been this way? And she was like, yeah, he used to like grab my face when he was little and he could tell that I was sad. And he would be
I
like,
could cry. That
I
is so
love you,
cute.
mom. Like, I know something's wrong, but I love you. It's going to make me cry.
Oh,
But he's just very much, I don't know, he's a safe space. He like regulates my nervous system and just creates a space for me to be emotional, but like grounded.
right. Well, sometimes those big things that happen in your life, again, it forces you to face things.
Mm-hmm.
And I have had that as well. And again, as much as you don't want those things to happen, it it makes you grow and evolve.
Mm-hmm.
What I think is interesting about your story is that was maybe around the time that your social media was really starting to pop off.
Mm-hmm.
And how was dealing with that combined with what you were dealing with your personal life? How was that?
Oh my gosh. Okay. This is probably not a healthy way of dealing with things.
It's okay.
I loved the distraction of work suddenly getting so crazy busy. It was like
Yeah.
perfect timing. I'm like, I
Yes.
don't have to think about
Wow.
this. I, yeah, I was kind of grateful that all of a sudden I had no time for anything. And I felt like I had no time to be sad either. So I would almost um, batch my crying too. Like,
Ah, that
I'm like,
is so
we're just
relatable.
time batching right now. And I don't have time to
You
cry
just put
today.
it on your calendar.
Yes,
45 minutes,
today.
cry.
Just good solid cry, whatever's going to get you there. Listen to a sad song, let it all out. But literally once a month, I would have these just uncontrollable sobs, and it would all come
Oh.
out all at once. And I was like, is this kind of convenient though?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, this is kind of ideal. So I think like diving headfirst into work, it felt like this beautiful distraction and just perfectly timed.
I think it's really important for you to say that because I think some people go on podcasts and they're like, I was perfect. I had it
I
all figured
know.
out. And you're like, no, it was a struggle for me. And I think that anyone that would have seen you on social media would have no idea.
No.
No idea.
There was a lot of compartmentalizing and a lot of feeling like it wasn't my story to tell too,
Yeah.
because I knew that my parents were like mourning, like
Yeah.
struggling so hard. And I didn't also want them to feel any worse. I knew they already felt bad enough. I didn't want them to see me sad, see me in pain. So I was like, this one's just it's gonna stay in here. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna talk about this one.
Are you the middle child?
I am.
Yep.
Yes.
I
It's
knew it.
very
I
middle
knew it.
child energy.
It is so I'm a middle child too, and I'm like I do this exact same thing with my
Yes.
family. Yeah.
Yeah. And like oldest daughter. So I have an older brother and then me, my younger brother, and my younger sister. So
Oh,
there's four of us.
yeah. Cute.
And I think, yeah, maybe some pressure on the middle child and oldest daughter to like keep it together.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm the only girl in middle,
Okay.
so I can relate to you
You
a
get
lot.
it.
And
Mm-hmm.
it's the same way. I always feel like I'm the one that's like bringing the family together or trying to like smooth things out
Yeah. You
or
don't want to create any more conflict.
right. Right.
Just like appease.
Yes. Which is not, I mean, it serves a purpose in a family
Mm-hmm.
dynamic, but it's not always at least I speak for myself, it's not always the healthiest for me to do long term. Because then I sometimes get like resentment towards my family that I'm like, why did I have to be the one to do this? Like, why
Mm.
couldn't my brothers have helped? Well, like, I love you, Johnny and James, but it's like,
Side note.
yeah, I love you guys. Don't worry. But, so you were dealing with that while
Mhm.
you were having this huge surge in social media. What was happening to you, from a professional point at that time? In
At
case
that
someone's
time.
like new to your social
Yeah.
media, tell us the story.
So in August of 22, I had kind of explosive growth that, prior to that, I was hardly growing. It was like, like just
Oh, I can relate to that.
a
Yeah.
little tiny community growth. I think I grew like 500 followers over the course of 6 months or something. Like it was nothing crazy. It was like a really sweet little community of mostly people that I knew.
Yeah.
Um, and then in August, I had 3 videos go viral around the same time. And there was a big jump in followers from 4,000 to 100K in like a little over a month. And that was completely new terrain. I was like, oh my gosh, now I've gone from pretty much knowing or like being one step removed from everyone that was following me
Yeah.
to I don't feel like I know any of these people. I don't really know what they want. They suddenly have like a lot of opinions on me, on my life, because they don't know me. There's no context for who I am.
Right.
So that was really interesting to suddenly jump into like, oh, people have things to say about me. Not always nice. That's fine. It's not always going to be
Yeah,
good.
we gotta talk about that. Yeah.
Yeah. There was no ramping up, like no slowly adjusting to I guess I don't want to say I don't get a lot of hate online, but just adjusting to people having opinions on you was really strange.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And all of the sudden.
All of a sudden.
Yeah.
Yeah, like yeah, no easing into this.
Yeah.
Um
Did it make you shut down at all? Like, were you like, okay, I need to, because I've felt that before with social media. I'm like,
mhm.
this is scary. And I like shut down, like stop posting. Or were you like, this is my time. I'm going to keep like, this is the time for me to like continue to engage these followers and build more of a community. So what route did you take?
The main mindset was this is my time. I felt like okay, we have like a little flame here and I need to tend to it because I had seen so many people hit 100K and then just kind of like stop and like feel like that was the end and like for a lot of reasons that is a great end. And I just didn't think that that was my end. So I was like, all right, here we go. We better buckle up. Like I'm Kyle, I'm going to need a lot more support from you. Sorry.
Yeah.
You're now part of the team. So slowly I started giving him like more responsibility and I started putting out more content and really just trying to gauge what this new audience wanted to see from me while staying very true to myself, my content offering, and my niche. And I was getting a lot of brands reaching out at that time and managers wanting to bring me onto their roster. And it felt like a lot of really big decisions that needed to happen all at once. So I decided to make none of them. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to keep making content. I'm not
Honestly,
going to
that
sign
is
with
so
management.
smart.
Yeah,
That is
it
so
felt
smart.
like
Let it settle.
everything was getting really clouded. And I just thought, I'm not going to make a good decision right now if I make it in haste. So I took no brand deals and I said no to managers that were reaching out until I then found my manager, who I'm like literally obsessed with,
Oh, thank God
Britt
you
Hendricks.
waited.
I know.
What's her name?
Britt.
Britt Hendricks.
Her agency is BN the Agency, and they're just incredible. Like I get all emo about it probably once a month that I love working with them so much.
Ah,
So I found a really good manager, but it was a crazy time, and content was it was light in a lot of ways because finally what I was doing felt like it had an impact. It wasn't like I was posting into an abyss anymore and having this like, oh my gosh, is this really going to go anywhere? Or am I just kind of going to look silly
yeah.
in everyone's minds for the rest of my life? Like, who knows? And then once you do kind of like, quote unquote, make it, you have a lot of people who suddenly were like, well, I believed in you the whole time. Like,
You're
it
like,
would have been so nice to have
really?
known that before.
Yeah. You're like, you bullied me in high school. No.
Like, I can't say I was getting I believed in you vibes until now. No, but there were a lot of like incredible supporters who had encouraged me the whole time, even when it was posting into an abyss days.
Right.
So very grateful for that.
Well, and it just goes to show that you have to start with the cringe. I'm posting into an
Yes.
abyss. The only people that are liking this are like my mom and my aunt because they feel bad for me. And you kind of have to start with that.
Totally.
Everybody does.
Everybody does. And if you can't move past that stage, then I don't know if you're going to end up being very successful in this career because you have to keep putting yourself out there.
Yeah.
It's not like you eventually make it and then you're no longer putting yourself out there trying new things or doing things that people think are super cringe.
Yeah.
It's like it's always going to be like that, and you're just going to keep getting more and more opinions that maybe aren't that positive about you.
And it could be very difficult to block out that negativity bias. Like I did the opposite of what you did. So I had a bunch of growth really early on. And then what happened is I spiraled a little bit because I found a Reddit thread about me.
Oh, no.
Yeah. I've never talked about this on the podcast, but
Reddit is so cruel.
Yeah. And it really wasn't that bad, but I was searching Evlo Fitness and I found it, and it just wasn't it felt like lies about me almost. Like I was like, this is just, I wanted to be like, no, like this isn't true. And it spiraled me for like 3 months.
Dang.
Like I didn't post content, but had I just pushed through, I think I would have like rode that flame. And I didn't. I just was like, I kind of shut down. I stopped posting as much, or like I kind of watered down my opinions and my posts. And I don't think, I wonder what would have happened if I just would have been like foot on the gas. But
it's so easy to see how that could happen though.
Yeah.
I have very strategically never read anything on Reddit about myself. I'm
sure there's nothing on Reddit. Like who would say, what is there bad to say about you?
I will literally never know.
Yeah, don't do it.
I also intentionally don't read threads about other people either, because especially if they're like close to me, I almost feel like it's dishonorable to them for me to know what people are saying about them on Reddit.
Yes.
I'm like, none of my business.
It's just a form to gossip.
It is.
Nameless and faceless. Like, it's not cool.
It's like such a lack of courage.
Yeah, I know. like all these things that I was reading, no one messaged me about it. Or like no one like politely pulled me aside and like said these. Like it was all just like,
oh, I'm sorry.
To the point I could defend myself. It's on. This was like 3 years ago. So I'm so
You're like, I've done therapy for it.
Oh my gosh. And honestly, I get coaching frequently, and a lot of my coaching sessions at that point were about like, I have this thing that I think is so awesome. I have this message that I really truly believe in. And I really truly believe that if more people knew it, it would change their lives. But I'm afraid to say it because I'm afraid that I'm going to get torn down and it's going to feel horrible.
Totally.
And yet there were all these people that were giving me like the positive feedback, but it's the negative stuff.
It's so loud. And I remember in the beginning, back to that phase of like suddenly having a lot of opinions about me.
Yeah.
There were, I did not have the tools to quiet that noise and to not let it take over my day. And I remembered there were definitely things about it that I changed about my content at that time. I showed up less. I wanted to just show the food. I was like, I'm not going to show myself. I'm just going to show what I'm making because I don't want people's opinions on me, my appearance, my marriage, my dance. Like
It's exhausting.
it's so exhausting. And I'll still go through cycles where I'm like, I don't really want to show up right now
Yeah.
because people are being a little crazy.
Yes. Like, let it breathe.
Let
And
it
then do you
breathe.
show up anyways?
Yes. Now I'm better about it.
Yeah.
Better about like not letting it sink in below the surface.
Yeah. How much of a perfectionist are you?
I'm a recovering perfectionist.
Same.
I used to be such a perfectionist and had to have my hands in everything, and like nothing could go live without me having done it initially, and then also like like so many levels of review. And now the quote that perfectionism, being a perfectionist is the enemy of progress, that like stuck with me because I was iterating so much on videos and captions and my ebook that I was like, I'm never going to go live with any of this
Yeah.
stuff if I keep being a perfectionist.
Yeah.
So we're in recovery.
We're in recovery, and sometimes it'll sneak back in.
Totally.
And I'm the same way. My motto is B plus and out the door. It's like B plus and out the door,
Yes.
because B plus work, I always say this, my audience knows, sorry, y'all, I'm a broken record. B plus work is so much better than A plus that never sees the light of day. And a lot of
So
people
good.
are like, they don't care that it's your B plus. They don't think it's B plus. They think it's
No.
great. Like, I've never seen your work and been like, that's B plus. Like, I'm always like,
Oh,
wow,
thank you.
I'm inspired.
It's that perfectionist that always is creeping back in.
It always is, yes. And you just have to do it anyways.
Totally.
You just have to get over it.
I find that now it's with things that are maybe kind of new ventures that I'm not as confident in, or I'm feeling imposter syndrome in that regard. The perfectionism starts to get a little
Like what?
sticky
Like
again.
podcasts? Have you
Like
been on a podcast
podcasts.
tour?
My accidental podcast tour.
Yeah.
It was like a goal of mine at the beginning of this year to go on a podcast. Like one podcast, I was like, I can do this. I just need to be on a podcast. Like, who's going to let me be a guest? And then now I don't even know how many it's been, but I love it. I think it's so fun.
You need your own podcast.
Oh, that would be
And Logan
fun.
right here is a great producer. Logan, I just gave you a new client. But seriously,
I don't know what my what would my POV be?
everybody says that. Everyone's
Yeah.
like, I have nothing to say. Da, da, da. You just talked about so many things on this podcast that you could say, you could have episodes about every little one of those things in detail.
True. And I could just bring you on, have you talk
Yeah.
about.
Yeah, I'll help you. It'll be fun.
I love listening to the podcast that you're on. So, and your own podcast, obviously, but you're like an exceptional guest.
Oh my gosh, that's so nice. Well, so are you, because
thank you.
You have to be, I don't know, I was raised like it's rude to talk about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And on a podcast, that's what you're supposed to do, is talk about yourself. And it always felt like so uncomfortable for me, and it still does. But you have to get over that too.
That was another thing that was on my 2024 vision goals, is get better at self-promotion.
Yes.
I really didn't like having to talk about myself. And like when I launched an ebook that was all like high protein recipes last December, it was really hard for me to come on social media and talk about it with any sort of frequency. Yeah. I was like, this will sell itself because it's so like, it's such an amazing resource, and
Things
I'm so excited. They do not sell themselves. And it was just hard for me to tell people like why they should buy it, and like why you should follow me, and why you should make my recipes. And there are some like, I still struggle with it to this day.
Yeah.
But I just never want people to feel like they're being sold to. Like,
and I think that is probably something that a lot of women struggle with. They don't want to feel salesy. They don't want to feel pushy.
Totally.
And so they're like, I'm not gonna put myself out there at all. But I'm sure you feel the same way. I felt that way too. And
I'm sure.
Now I'm like, I know what I believe in, what I have to offer. And I believe that this exchange of money for the service or product is going to be an exchange that's worthwhile for you. Not only that, it's going to like over deliver. That's always my goal, is to like over deliver to people. And yours clearly is too, just by your content. So it's like, if you have the view of like, this is going to help you and this is going to over deliver, this is going to feel inexpensive because of the value that I'm going to give you, then it's like, it's kind of a no brainer. But I agree. It's hard to promote yourself. It feels uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But if you believe it, you can just, it's come back to that self-belief.
I know, back to the integrity of what you're talking about and what you're posting about. And that has always been such a pillar of my content, is like, I love all the brands I get to work with. I love the
Yes.
recipes that I'm putting out. So I can have so much integrity with what I'm talking about, what I'm posting about, that it makes it so much easier. I literally cannot imagine how hard it would be to post about a brand that you didn't actually like, because it's hard enough
Yes.
posting about brands that you love and use every single
Yep.
day.
Yep.
You're like, oh, I don't want to like sell to anyone. I don't want to feel, I don't know, push anything on anyone.
Yeah.
But like, I freaking love this.
You're like, I promise this one I actually, but a lot of influencers don't really use the products, but
I
you
know.
do. You are you someone that you try something before you promote it?
100% of the
Okay.
time. Yeah. And that has not changed from the very beginning. Like
Yeah.
when I first started getting brand deals and suddenly brands wanted to work with me, and I was like, I don't think I'm going to work with any of you yet because
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just need to get my footing under me. I need to create a community that trusts me first.
Yeah.
Like they just found me. They just discovered me. Why would they trust me?
Yeah.
So trust has always been like the most important part, integrity and playing the long game. People
Yeah.
can see right through if you're shilling every product and if you're
Yes.
like hopping on every trend. Like these are real people. They're intelligent and they are your community. Like
Yes.
treat them, like hold them so loosely. They're valuable, like precious.
Yes.
Not valuable
Yes.
in terms of like a monetary, but like they're precious and you need to like be really careful with what you talk about on your platform. And I just feel that responsibility like so heavily.
You can see that in your content. You can see that you are careful and you're intentional about everything that you put out there, which is important because like you have people's most valuable resource, which is their time and attention.
Totally.
And I'm so inspired by how you go about social media because you can tell that there's thought behind it. And I also love, quick side note, I love how consistent your content is.
Oh,
Is that all
good.
intentional? Do you have a content strategy or
I do have I'm trying to think of a loose content strategy. Um, Content calendar for sure that I stick to
really?
like pretty pretty religiously. I have this is kind of going to sound crazy. In the beginning of August, I planned out my content through the end of the year. So I
That is
sent over
awesome.
my content calendar with like all the videos that I plan to film through the end of December. And there's obviously a lot of room for flexibility as I get inspired by different ingredients and whatnot.
Yeah.
But I sent that to my manager and I'm like, all right, this is the plan. And to like,
Holy cow.
yeah. So
So
that
did you have
just,
to
it makes
test
me
all
feel,
those recipes and everything beforehand? Or are you like,
I'm still working through testing them because
okay,
like a lot of the November, December stuff I haven't tested yet. But it's like, I'm pretty sure that I'm gonna nail this. So like
absolutely.
we're loosely putting it on the calendar for now. And I think it just creates so much space in my mind, honestly, when I have the content planned out, then I can think creatively. It's kind of like having a
Yeah.
clean home.
Yeah.
You like
Yes.
get rid of all the noise and then you can be creative and then you can do deep work. And there are a lot of projects I'm working on right now that require deep work. So having that content calendar set has been like
Because it
essential.
eliminates decision fatigue. You're not like,
Yes,
crap, what am I going to post tomorrow? And then you're thinking,
exactly.
like, you're like, I already know what I'm going to post tomorrow. Time for me to think beyond that and think
Mm-hmm.
about other things, and or just, God forbid, have some empty space in your day
What's
where
that?
you can. I know, right? It's like the best ideas I get are in the shower because I'm not trying to achieve anything. I'm not trying to be productive, and I'm like, this. I need this time in my day.
Mm-hmm.
And I time block and calendar very, very religiously, and it has changed my
Oh
life.
my gosh, changes everything.
Everything.
And
You
this
just get so
year,
much more done too.
yes, like you become a lot more efficient. And I imagine this is like, I don't know, an assumption I'm putting on you. I imagine that having a child also
Oh,
made you more efficient.
yes, absolutely. I work. Well, my work schedule is like all over the place. Sometimes I'll work at night if I
Okay.
like, but I try to work from like 9 to like 2 or 3.
Okay.
And that's not a lot of time. And so I try to
Yeah.
fit in everything that I have to do during that time. And Jill knows I'm like sprinting. I'm like go 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 go. And then if I don't get it all done, I'll do it. I'll do the rest after she goes to bed. But it's
Okay.
important for me to have that time with her from like
Mm-hmm.
3 to 2 or 3 to like 7 until she goes to bed.
Yeah.
But yeah, you get so much more done when you have a kid and what else is interesting about having a kid is that I've never had to have boundaries in my mind of how much I think about work. I've always been able
Oh,
to think, and maybe you're the same way, it's like
yes,
always on your mind.
totally.
I've been able to think about work constantly. And when I'm with her, I don't want to be thinking about work. I want to be
Mm-hmm.
thinking about her. And of course, I'm thinking about her, but I can't shut it off.
Yeah,
And so I've had to, that's been something I've been working on, is like trying to like shut that part of my brain off, that work brain. It's a new skill, I think, is to be able
totally.
to like have new boundaries around
When you figure
turning
it
your brain on
out,
and
let
off.
me know.
I will. I have not figured it out. So it's probably going to take me at least a few more months, but
I have a hard time, and I'm sure you can relate to this too, being present even on vacation.
same. It's the
Ever
same
like
thing.
shutting it off.
Uh-huh.
If a vacation is only a weekend, no chance. No chance I'm ever like shutting
No,
off work mode. It has to be like extended stay, like over a week, and then I
settle into
settle
it.
in.
Yeah.
And then I actually come back feeling refreshed and like I have all these creative ideas.
Yes.
But it's so hard to turn it
It
off.
takes a few days.
Mm-hmm.
And even, I don't know if you experience this, but even when I'm on vacation, I'm like, I need to be like posting on stories, or I need to
Oh my
be,
gosh,
do you
yes.
do that? Or do you ever just like take off completely?
So last year we went to London at Christmas, and I very much viewed that trip as like, this is just going to be for us. I don't really know if people want to see vacation content from me. It wasn't like this crazy food tour. So we were just doing Christmas things. So I was not really posting a ton. And I got so many DMs asking, post more about Christmas. Like, I've been waiting to see
Yeah.
like your London at Christmas content. And it was both like exciting that that was something that people wanted to see from me, but also it felt a little bit like a burden that,
Yeah.
oh, this isn't really a new content pillar I'm trying to move into, or that I'm something that I'm
Right.
trying to offer. And this is, it feels like the one time that I can be selfish with and not have to share everything. So I've had to figure out, and I take it vacation by vacation.
Yeah.
What is the vibe of this vacation? Is it going all on social media, or is this just for Kyle and I?
Yeah.
And like, oh, I learned this the hard way. We went to Cabo for our anniversary. And the first day we were there, I'm like, we're in Cabo, that we're having so much fun. Happy anniversary to us.
Yeah.
And my DMs were firing so hard all day long for the whole time that we were in Cabo. And I remember getting back from that trip and telling my mom, the next time we go away for a romantic anniversary, I am not posting until we are like 3 days in or until we're back,
Until you're back.
because it was
Yes.
like crazy.
Yes.
Um,
I've seen a lot of
yeah.
influencers do that. They'll take the picture and the
Yeah.
video and then they'll just save it and they'll post it like days later
Yeah. So smart.
so that you can just like be there with the people
Yeah.
that
You
you're
really
with.
want to be like present, especially
Yeah.
celebrating a marriage anniversary. Like, I don't want
Yes.
to be
Be
on
on
my
your
phone.
phone.
And it's hard for me to, when I see a DM and I see a question, I do want to answer it. I do want to engage with my community. So
Yeah.
I just can't give myself that temptation.
Yes.
I have to like remove
I
it.
can't believe you answer your DM, all of your DMs.
I try. Not, I mean, I will never get to all of them, but I really try to be active in DMs because I feel
Yeah,
like
I do
that
too, but it's hard.
it's really
Yeah,
hard.
it's hard.
It's so, people say such sweet things
I know, I
in
know, I
DMs.
know. And then
It's
if you
so
ever miss
nice.
something, I'm like, yeah, I know.
I
But it's
know.
hard when you have like, for me, I'm like, I have a full-time job that I'm doing all of this stuff during the day.
Mm-hmm.
And so DMs, sometimes I'll time block my DMs and I'll
Yes.
be like, okay, 30 minutes, as many as I can do. I'm just gonna,
Watching Survivor doing DMs.
yeah, exactly. Do as many as possible. Cause it is so fun to like get to talk to
It
people
is.
and yeah, agree. Okay, I could talk to you forever, but I feel like it's probably been like over an hour. Okay, so I'm like looking at Logan. What time do we have? Thank you so much for coming on and taking the time. And it's so fun to have you in person in Austin. And now we'll have to actually go on our walk.
I know. And I want to meet Liv.
Oh, you need
Little
to
Liv.
live with
It's going to
Liv.
give me serious baby fever.
Oh,
It's been starting. I'm getting the fever.
we'll have
It's
to talk
very
about that
exciting.
too. We'll
I
have to talk
know.
about that too.
Next episode.
Okay, everyone needs to go follow you. Tell us how to follow you.
So I'm Olivia Adriance on pretty much every platform. Olivia.Adriance on Instagram.
Okay.
Had to sneak a little period in there.
Yeah.
And then I have a fun newsletter that's linked in my bio. And I put out like a little deep dive once a month on something, either hair or skin or what it's like working with your husband. Just, I go deep onto topics that I don't really get to touch on super, like it's always really high level on Instagram stories, but
Yes. And
The
we didn't even
newsletters for the
talk
deep
about your
stuff.
hair. If you all are not watching on YouTube, she's got the best hair.
Oh,
So
thank you.
yeah, go sign up for your newsletter. Follow you on
Yeah,
Instagram. Are you on TikTok?
I am on
I'm
TikTok.
like barely on TikTok anymore.
I'm trying to do more like fun, different videos on TikTok
Oh, good.
because Instagram, I think pretty much what people expect from me is a recipe video, and that's kind of it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Tell me if I'm wrong. But on TikTok, there's a little bit more margin for
Yeah.
doing fun, different, like I did a matcha taste test and posted that earlier this week. So it's a different
Fun.
style of content over there.
Yeah, it is. It's more casual.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have a blog too.
I do have a blog. Yes. That got redone in June. And I feel
It's
like
a big undertaking, I'm
oh my
sure.
gosh, such a big undertaking. And I had no idea how expensive blogs were. I'm like so impressed by everyone who has a beautiful blog now. Like incredible.
Yes.
Go you. But yeah, blog is also just oliviaadriance.com. Lots of delicious recipes to browse through over there.
Amazing. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh,
This was
thank you
so
for having me
fun.
on. I'm glad that we have each other in Austin.
Me too. All right, everyone. We'll see you all next week for a regular episode. Bye for now.